competitive Hearthstone, and he's just getting consistently very impressive results, with him pretty much guaranteed getting through to the top 8 now as well. He's just in a really, really good spot, and it's very impressive with his work Hearthstone balance as well.
Yeah, well, we are diving into game number 4 now. Go down on the Paladin at 5-1, and Nolan also at 5-1 on the Warlock. And something I'll just shout out about Warlock, I don't know if you remember all the way back to the pre-show today, is that Cube Warlock was actually in one of the most losingest lineups, so to speak. And this is Cube Block. Yeah, Nolan's at 5-1, so he might be the rising star of this deck, just to try and make it work in the lineup he has. Just a quick shout, though. The lineup he does have includes Malygos Druid, Death Rattle Hunter, and then Xerix Priest.
This is literally just as if the nerfs never happened. Like, he's just carrying on with, like, Q-Block, Malygos Druid. Like, the recent developments in meta clearly have not affected Nolan, and it's working out very well for him.
Yeah, we'll see him Dark Pact and just heals for 8. We'll be like, wait, what? What's going on? Meanwhile, Nalguidan piloting one of my favorite decks at the moment, a deck I think we both appreciate, is the dual OTK Paladin, which is what the official deck naming committee have signed off on. So that's what we're going to be calling it now. But just to remind you guys, we did cast Nalguidan yesterday, but there was a Shrink Ray, 1 Holy Wrath, 1 True Silver Champion, and that's pretty much it in terms of big differences.
Yeah, I like his list a lot. The old double panda, giving you much more ability to go for the Horseman OTK.
That's like the WWE list.
Drink with me, friend.
The double panda.
Oh no, WWF list. I went for the wrestling.
Yeah.
The miss, a swing and a miss. I went the wrong way. WWF. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a good joke, Derek, and I whiffed it.
Well,
no!
This is where I should also make a joke about wrestling, but I literally know nothing about wrestling.
Where's Sol?
Yeah.
I need to call him in.
Oh, he's jumping off a building with a chair in his hand.
That's exactly what I feel like you've never even watched wrestling.
Yeah,
you just know chairs are involved somehow.
I know there's
sometimes.
a lot of chairs, yeah.
Okay, so Nalguidan's no surprise cycling through the deck very quickly, and this is a matchup I'll say I've not seen too much, because Q-Block not the most popular deck in the world right now, and it's an interesting one because Q-Block doesn't have the healing potential it used to, so staying above a certain life total may just be impossible for that deck. Like, you can't just, okay, I'll sit above 25. It's like, well, it's probably just not going to work, is it? So you are susceptible to Holy Wrath, but also you can just Doom Guard people in the face for 1 million, so...
I think that's definitely how I imagine the matchup would go, whereas it could be the fact that they heal up to like 35 with the armor from the Death Knight as well, to play around the Holy Wrath. More likely, I think it's Q-Block is the beatdown. They try and close out the game, and as always, Skull of the Minari is a fantastic way to get that ball rolling, as Nolan has done.
Also, an almost always 0 weapon removal in the Paladin deck, so that Skull's just there for the rest of the game. And also as well, Paladin cannot really deal with cubes at all.
Yeah, well,
like,
Paladin...
they have to just time out and be like, well, okay, I'll just do it next turn.
This Paladin is just incredibly weak to a lot of stuff, actually, the more you look at it. It's just the idea is that it's found its spot in the meta because there's not that much Death Rattle. Cubes have fallen by the wayside a little bit, with Death Rattle Hunter falling by the wayside for Secret Hunter. It's found its spot, but it could be struggling here.
Right, and this is maybe where Nolan's been finding his niche in this tournament is, well, this Paladin deck hasn't existed in the same time of Q-Block's popularity.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there were some other decks, Mechathune Warlock, the Priest, for example. Like, they've not really existed whilst Q-Block's been super popular.
Yeah.
So did the players that aren't Q-Block really know the best way to play around them?
It's very possible that this matchup will be very difficult for both players, actually. I think the general idea, though, I think Nolan, even after just playing this matchup a couple times, even though the minutia of the matchup, I think, might still be eluding them, he will definitely know the general game plan. He will know, I'm trying to beat my opponent up, I'm not going for value, I'm just trying to kill them.
Yeah, and the Giant in the hand there is going to be pretty nice. The Void Lord is going to come out next turn as well, so that's a decent amount of pressure. And Nalguidan right now, yeesh. Does he have to just play coin? Is he on 10? He is on 10, right? I'm not making that up. Yeah, he's on 10.
Yeah.
So depending on what he draws here, he might just have to just play coin and pass.
It's looking that way. This is one of the real problems with OTK Paladin, is you just always have too many cards. You have to just play up Pyromancer or all these cards that you want to keep for later.
It's one of the slight problems with this version of the build, where you're playing card like Shrink Ray. Well, you can't just play Shrink Ray, right? You know, it's 5 mana. You can't just play it out randomly because it has a very specific job.
Here we see one of the other things that may be hurting Nolan in this matchup is the somewhat interesting decision to go for Stonehill defenders over Prince Taldaram, which is not something I've seen very often at all, to be honest. Most Q blocks I've seen recently have very much been siding with Taldaram because of the just disgusting potential that it allows you with Q
Because of the
and
filthy
Umbra.
potential.
Yeah, it's a filthy card.
I think maybe there was also just a nod to saying, well, if I'm against tons of aggro, Stonehill might get me there, whereas Taldaram often does not. And I do believe that this specific tournament meta was hard to call as to how lopsided it was.
Some players did very well, as we see like right at the top, like Noblord in particular. And I think it is a slight misread of the meta from Nolan. I think he would much rather have Taldaram now that he sees all the lineups. But even then, you know, Stonehill is not Stonehill is not useless. It can still give him a little bit of extra refill. But for the most part, he will just be wanting to copy as many Doom Guards as possible, as we saw on that previous turn, copying a damaged Doom Guard just for the damage to face and that resurrection off of Gul'dan, which will be so important later on.
Void Lord, that's a free one next turn.
We like that very much.
Board can be fully cleared though, and there is a turn away from Gul'dan, so Nalguidan is fairly sure that there's going to be no Doom Guards coming out of nowhere to kill him next turn.
The real problem is for Nalguidan, though, is very often, like, you always have to add the addendum in any matchup with Holy Wrath Paladin of he can just go for a Hail Mary of play Shivala, shuffle it in, and try and Holy Wrath his opponent. He does not have the cards to do that, so it's going to be a little bit more of an honest game plan for Nalguidan. He can stall out with timeout and stuff.
But he does only need one card, right? Because Shivala's in the deck, so he can just play Holy Wrath.
Yes,
and hope it goes there. He doesn't need to do the full banker switch. But yeah, so sometimes you make the call, and you know, as we found out a game of Language Hackers yesterday, he just won. I believe it was turn 5. He just played Holy Wrath, 25 to face and won.
I think Noblord posted on Twitter that he also just did that.
Yeah.
Good demons are hard to find.
Okay, so the board cleared, Void Lord down, and now the fear has to be straight away. We're almost certainly seeing a timeout next turn.
Yeah.
Because it's not only this Doom Guard, it's potential refill, and a Shrink Ray isn't going to help.
Nolan very much missing the 50-50 there that he was looking for to get the Doom Guard out of the deck to both get the damage in immediately and get better resurrections off of Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
Oh.
You've spotted something?
If there was not even Pyro. I'm wondering if there's a way that Nalguidan can just fill the board with Voidwalkers and just say, well, it's 7 a turn, which is a lot and adds up. But your opponent's never playing Gul'dan into it. If they can't kill them off, then, you know, that gets harder because they can't play Doom Guards either, or cubes, and so on and so on.
It's an interesting idea.
Sometimes you've got to go a little bit further out to try and take some games here.
Because even though, like you say, that is a lot of damage, it's just about surviving with OTK Paladin because you can end the game so quickly.
Yeah, and this looks pretty good to me. I think you just cannot die next turn if you play Shrink Ray and the Pyro.
Nalguidan agrees. He's going to tank the damage right now. It just gives him another turn that he doesn't have to play the timeout, which is just such a valuable resource.
Because even if there was, because there's only 6 minions that's going to be on the board. So there's one space, but even with one Doom Guard, you do not get to 16. So Nalguidan is safe. That was a really good draw. I think he was just dead or had to time out. And as you said, the second you're forced into an uncomfortable timeout, because look at this turn. If he timed out this turn, what's his turn next turn? Like, it's just going to be bad.
And now Nolan is in a really weird spot where none of his plays are that good. Like, he's not in that bad of a position. He doesn't have to do anything that flashy. He could still play Blood Reaver Gul'dan. It's very much a consideration just because that 3 damage every turn.
And he might get a Doom Guard.
He could just get a Doom Guard, exactly.
To deal the extra 5 and have the hero power, as you said. And also, every single turn, it's unlikely. We don't have the deck count, unfortunately, but it's in the back of your mind where I might just die to Holy Wrath.
Yeah.
Like, you just might. And
it's true.
You almost have to pretend you don't if you can't get above 25. Because there's nothing you can do about it, right? If you get 25, then, well, that's the game. It happens sometimes. Interesting going for the cube.
He doesn't know whether to go for cube or Defile Godfrey. Like, I don't think I like Defile Godfrey just because it doesn't put enough pressure on the board. This is just like playing a minion. This is just getting 4 more attack on the board and hoping it does anything. This still demands an answer from Nalguidan. Ooh.
Please. And not because, you know, any preference of player that wins here, but I just want to see it happen on stream.
Come on, Nalgi. We believe in you.
It's going to be Potion of Heroism, and doing it on your opponent's minion means that you actually like save the mana to try and do something else the following turn.
And I think in all seriousness, because Nalguidan is drawing through his deck at quite a speedy rate, he will probably just save the Holy Wrath for the OTK. Like
the card count's looking low, isn't it?
Exactly. He doesn't need to go for the Gambit unless he's really afraid of dying. I think because he obviously can just play timeout this turn, why not just do it next turn when you have a higher chance of getting there? Because even if you draw Shivala, you can just play it, Baleful it, and try again.
And he has... it's his limitation of other options, right? Because there's nothing else he can do. There's one thing to consider where you've just seen the Kobold Librarian. That could proc Spellstone. So you're like, oh wait, can my opponent double Spellstone? That pushes me out. Not really, unless they're both 7.
Yeah. It would have to be a tremendous amount of healing.
Nothing. The heal from Dark Pat's going to help get the Giant down, but the outcome's kind of the same for Nalguidan. It's just, he was just saying this draw or nothing.
It's looking like we may be approaching that point with Shivala. There it is.
So,
again, we do not know the deck size, unfortunately.
Okay, can he Shivala, Zola, Shivala, Bounce, Shivala, Baleful? Or maybe you don't replay the last...
You don't play the Baneful. You just heal up to survive this turn. You've drawn one more card from the deck.
I was just working out which way is the best way, but you actually don't play it the third time, right?
Yes.
You hold it, because you want to Baleful the turn you actually Holy Wrath. Wow.
I think that's probably... I'm going to say just better. The downside of playing the Brewmaster and the Zola on this turn is you limit your potential for a Horseman at OTK, but I think it's looking more and more like that's not a possibility. Yeah.
He does, by doing that play, he opens up space on the board, but you also heal for 14, so...
But he also needs to be afraid of clearing off Voidwalkers, because then that opens up space for a Gul'dan.
Exactly. Yeah, he can't even...
He's just going for it.
Oh my. Okay. That stuff's green. He's missed.
No, he didn't! What? Oh my god!
Oh, it was the delay on his card count! Nalguidan gets there!
Necessarily to this tournament. He does have that dual OTK Paladin, the Holy Wrath Paladin, as you see there on your screen, and he's backed that up with Dragon Priest and even Warlock. His Hybrid Hunter's been banned away. On Killinallday, we talked about it yesterday. It's been the theme of tournaments for you and I in terms of our casting. Even Warlock is the deck that has the big question mark above my head, and we're going to be seeing it in game number 1. I feel like Monsanto could struggle to get even locked through in this series.
It's not looking great. Killinallday's drawn his 1/2 drop. It's right there. Cold Blood, right in the middle.
Now, in order to activate that 2-drop, you do have to have another 1-drop to go with it.
That is true. 1 + 1 does indeed make 2.
So got the Argent Squire, but Monsanto with a Spellbreaker early as well. That's always one that I struggle keeping in the matchup, but I think is just right to do. Because Cold Blood blows you out. You definitely want that file. You definitely want Spellstone. This is a tough matchup for even Warlock. Attack a Fledgling on early as well.
Yeah, Monsanto does have a bit of resilience built up already. Homunculus can deal a little bit with a Cold-Blooded Squire if it does end up going that way, and as you mentioned, the Spellbreaker, but there's no removal in hand just yet, and that's not the one he was looking for.
Bit of a grimace on Killen's face as he draws the Deadly Poison there, too. He's like, all right, fair game.
Mojo Master Zihi coming into the hand of even lock player Monsanto. Admirable, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't mind Mojo Master. I think it's okay. To me, I'm just looking at the deck list, and it's been fairly stock for a long time now. It's just so many of the cards in here are critical to the deck's well-being. The one thing I'm noticing it's missing from Monsanto's list is actually Bone Mare. And I really actually like this choice. I don't like bringing Bone Mare at the moment because even Warlock's just in a weird spot. I didn't expect a lot of players to bring it this weekend given its performance last week. Just seems like a deck overall, it's not the greatest spot. Ooze, on the other hand, this is, to me, one of the prime cards, and I'm always confused when I see one of it. It's like, this is the one way you can snag tempo against Odd Rogue
Yeah.
and perhaps win the game, is oozing a weapon charge.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It shuts down so many options for the opponent. You know, it means Henge Clan Thug isn't coming down as a 4-4 the next turn anymore. It's coming down as a 3-3. And guess what? You've preloaded a 3-2 onto the board to shut that down. Flappy Bird, same business, already contested on the board. Destroying the dagger is worth so much more against Odd Rogue than just removing that source of 2 damage from the board. It locks out tempo for 1 or 2 turns afterwards as well.
That's exactly what you need to win. You know, a lot of times, I'd say when the early iterations of even Warlock, this matchup was so much harder because the way that I tended to play it and the way I saw players tend to play it was they would try to clear the board, get a threat online. And just one day I saw Purple play. He just jams a Mountain Giant. He Hellfires and falls to like 7, and then he recovers and wins by attacking with Mountain Giant. I was like, oh, that's the way you win. You just pressure them right back. And that's a lot about what this Ooze is doing right here. Just pressures them back and threatens to start dealing damage and eliminating threats so you can get something big online. But to me, that's really where this issue comes in with playing the 2-drop, is when Mountain Giant is your big threat afterwards, it doesn't line up the same.
Yeah.
It's just tough overall, every single angle.
I think also a little interesting tempo versus value debate on the previous turn for Killinallday there. He had the option to just spend 1 mana on that Deadly Poison. Even though if it didn't do anything that turn, it would have wasted a Deadly Poison charge to use it. It would have got it done, right? So he could then potentially use 4 mana on the following turn if he needed to, on like 3-drop plus Cold Blood, for example, while killing this 2-4 that's in play.
Yeah, that is an interesting line, and we talk a lot about aggro and how important it is to use it super aggressive early on. That to me is one of the spots where that opportunity is now lost to time.
Yeah.
And if Killen, looks back and goes, wow, if I had played that Deadly Poison just for that 2 extra damage, would things have been different? And here, it very clearly would have been. We'd be looking at a 5-1 and a 4-4 Henge Clan Thug versus no board from Monsanto.
Yes. And I will say, like, this is the best possible pan out for taking the Deadly Poison line. What Killinallday will have considered is various other reasons why he doesn't want to use that Deadly Poison right now. He's thinking, I probably don't have to kill a 2-4 next turn. It's like the one card in the deck they have to deal with. Then I can, just potentially go 3-drop plus Cold Blood anyway and still have a full double charge Deadly Poison to back that up. Like, there's a lot of scenarios where Killinallday's play makes sense. Right now, it looks like he really wants a 4-attack dagger without having to spend 1 on it.
It's something I wasn't even really thinking of was to throw the Deadly Poison on, but I would want to kill a Plated Beetle here as well.
That's fair.
It just overall, when I really think about it, it makes a ton of sense to have thrown that Deadly Poison. And now instead it's getting thrown this turn, and that yields 4 less damage.
Yep.
That's a point of anticipation. I feel like I just learned something. Just like that little Henge Clan thing. I leveled up a bit. I went from a half-half to a full 1-1 now.
So Monsanto in the great debate now. How threatening is that Henge Clan Thug when you have the 2 biggest threats in your deck that you can just play instead? And you were saying that, like, the purple line here is just to play a big boy.
Well, the issue is Monsanto, all he has is big boys.
Yeah.
There's nothing here that's tiny, and so I feel like if Monsanto's going to win this game, he doesn't play Mountain Giant, and as a result, he has to tap and find a way to defend himself, whether that's going to be Sun Fury Protector, finding, a Spellstone, finding multiple silences. He has to find something to win, and I just don't think it's there right now.
That Tar Creeper is choice for Killinallday right now. Because he does not want to have to interact with this Mountain Giant in any way, and Tar Creeper gives him an awful lot of privilege to ignore it.
So then the question is it Tar Creeper Cold Blood, or is it Tar Creeper Dagger Up? Dagger's more mana efficient. It's very similar to the way that Cold Blood would operate right now. It yields 3 damage.
Yep.
The other question, too, though, is Hooked Reaver. Do you want to press that issue right now, or would you rather fight this Mountain Giant off?
I mean, you are missing a ton of damage. Well, actually, no. You could just push 3 and put him exactly the 16. You'd be missing 5. Yeah, that's a big number. Forget about it. You're hitting face. Never mind the Hooked Reaver. It's a decision that gets very simple if you're staring at a Valspine Slayer in your hand, right? But I think even now with Cold Blood coming through, Myra's for refill, like, I think Killen can back up pressure here very nicely with his hand, even though he doesn't have the immediate answer of a Valspine Slayer.
Press the issue and worry about it later.
Put it on the later base.
Odd Rogue's got a lot of damage. You don't always have to kill things with Vile Spines. A lot of times, just hitting them.
I wonder if...
That's where my head goes, too. It kind of just trails off.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, just none of this is working. You know, Monsanto's going to worry about Leroy Jenkins, going to worry about Cold Blood, going to worry about Vile Spine, basically the rest of the game. Coin the Beetle, hoping that the few shreds of armor it can give you is enough relief. I'm seeing a Void Ripper.
I'm seeing a Cold Blood.
I'm seeing a 1-0 lead for Killen.
Yep.
Quick game number 1 as Monsanto is unable to defend himself.
Which, you know, even then looked like it would have allowed him to win that game as even more of a canter if he'd have been Groundhog Day again. We've had this cast. We did this yesterday.
Yep.
I'm sure of it.
We're going to keep doing it.
Okay, that's fine.
Every time there's an even Warlock, I'm going to bring it up.
Fair enough. Well, there isn't one right now. We've got a Priest Mirror instead, although not a true mirror in terms of archetype. We've got clones on one side, dragons on the other. Monsanto on the dragon side of that persuasion. Whereas Killinallday playing, honestly, one of my favorite decks in the game right now, the Clone Priest.
Why is that?
So I love big degenerate strategies that blow my opponent up in one turn. Big fan of that to begin with. But also, I think when you actually like dig down into playing the deck extensively, it doesn't do just that. Every game is very, very different. Every game you have to react to the state and figure out how you're winning. And sometimes that's through Spellstones making boards. Sometimes it's through burst damage. Your draws and your revive pool influences that all the time. I feel like every game evolves as the player playing Priest very organically and very fluidly. Whereas if you're the player playing against Priest, I get it. It seems like they're just doing a bunch of dumb nonsense over and over again and then you die. But trust me, there's some decisions going on from the Priest player.
So what is there any hard and fast rules to it? Like this matchup in particular, is there anything that Killen is looking for specifically, or is it, again, sort of that fluid adaptation?
It has to be fluid. So the fact that Killen's already drawn a Malagos right now, dissuades him a little bit from going for pure burst plan, right? Like you're not just going to get like a turn 9 Xerix into burn. So it means, say, if Killen here is going to be casting Shadow Visions at any times in the near future, he might be less inclined to take Holy Smites and Mind Blasts because he's not going to just get that turn 9 OTK with the Xerix. He might be looking more towards Eternal Servitudes, towards Spellstones, towards removal tools if Monsanto starts to build a board. You really do just have to adapt on the fly, turn by turn. And that right there is a perfect indicator of that. Floats 3 mana, not casting Shadow Visions. The reason being, he doesn't know what he wants from Shadow Visions yet. He doesn't know what kind of game this is.
And kind of talking about the Malagos for a second, you mentioned he's already drawn it. That is a key factor in the Resurrection pools. The goal is to get, you know, a Velen and a Malagos simultaneously on board and then do something to blow your opponent up.
Yes.
Malagos is a pretty tough minion for Killen to actually just get in play. I'm looking at the pair of Twilight Acolytes and the 2 Cabal Shadow Priests from Monsanto that are in the deck list. You know, how big of a fear is for Killen is that for the whole game?
It's a concern, but again, it's something that you can adapt to over time as you evolve the deck playing out, and you don't always have to win through burst damage. You know, there is only a couple of Psychic Screams for Monsanto in the deck in terms of real hard removal, and Monsanto's actually drawn both of them, so he can't even pick up extra Shadow Visions copies, which means sometimes you can just win by building boards that they can't answer. You know, like a couple of revives on Eternal Servitudes on big minions into a big Spellstone at the end can often just be enough to get the job done as well.
This deck is just so weird to me. Like, I look at it and I'm like, how does it win? I know how it wins when I play against it because I feel like I typically die very quickly, but, you know, quickly being relative, they just, no, nothing, die.
Yes. And believe me, I am in no way defending, like, the nut straw that this deck has, that Clone Priest has, is unbeatable by everything else in the game. Like, if they get it, you just die, and there was no decision process. As long as your opponent knew how the deck worked, you died, and there was nothing you can do about it. And I get that a lot of people find that to be, you know, degenerate and frustrating. But the 90% of games where that doesn't happen, that's where the deck gets really fun for me.
I will respectfully disagree with you.
I knew you would. Yeah.
Seems like a pretty easy scale worm turn. The Power Word Shield, however, you know, Monsanto does have some considerations of his own as well. You know, his damage is much more limited, I think, than Killen's is.
Yeah.
However, his damage is not, it's not parsed into giant chunks of availability. It's more of a how much gas do you have for Shadowy Branduin once it arrives.
Right. And it's, again, something that you can play around as the Clone Priest if you want to go that way. You can save up for like a Revive Malagos plus Spirit Lash kind of turn when your health is getting low on a key position. Because you know that, you know, you need to play around like 19 from the opponent. That's like the safe zone against Mind Blast Priest. So if you start getting below that, you can just time a nice Spirit Lash combo to get back up again. But Killen might just choose to go pure aggression as well at some point.
Looks like he's going for some value here too. It's just what he's got available. Shadow Vision's option's not looking too bad. Second Mind Blast picked up thanks to Lyra as well. So that is a major hidden tool that Killen can have in the back pocket. And very interested in just continuing to cycle spells through to power up the Spellstone in the hand.
Yeah, I like it with that Spellstone in hand. As you mentioned, Shadow Visions is just a great pick. And also Shadow of Death, not great against the deck that he's playing against. You know, Alex Straza, really the only threat that you're going to be hitting with that. So yeah, I kind of like recycling the Shadow Visions in the spot he was in.
And I feel like Killen is starting to get under threat of taking some pretty serious damage here. I mean, this is 9 uncontested on the previous turn.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like that's what the Rezzing Lyra was about there. I don't think he was super interested in like trying to go deep on a Lyra. He just wanted to get a 3-5 back in place. He can slow down his opponent's development a little bit, because it's one thing that opponents do need to do against Clone Priest, but perhaps do a little bit too much, is respect and kill your minions. Because a lot of time as the Clone Priest player, you're happy when they kill your minion. Your minion just got cheaper when they killed it. It now costs 4 instead of 9. That's sweet.
They're going to save the second and third copy of this same legendary card.
Yep.
Feel like with Alex Straza in hand, you do have the liberty to just slow it down a tad.
The nod from Killen. Very happy with how that turn panned out, I think. No pressure added and no damage pushed. And yeah, Killen just snaps the Psychic Scream off the top.
Yeah, he did need to do something that turn. My head was like, oh, Psychic Scream's pretty good here, but
right,
it was just so quick.
Yeah.
Is that comfort, or is it just the only thing he's got to do? Or
I think it's recognizing phases of the game. I think Dragon Priest pressure only really lasts up into a certain point. You know, they can curve out and be aggressive up into a point, and then they get stuck doing awkward things like playing a 6-mana Chillwind Yeti to pressure you. So yeah. I think, you know, Killinallday recognizes, like, you know what? This is past the period of the game where I just have to survive. Now my deck starts doing really, really powerful things, and I want to spend my mana on doing those powerful things, not dealing with my opponent's board.
I also feel like Cabal Shadow Priest, you know, being used into the mix, I feel like that is a small victory for Killen, where he knows that later on in the game, it's less likely that a minion gets Twilight Acolyte and then stolen away. And now I'm curious, because I'm looking at Zarek's cloning gallery, and there's still 2 Radiant Elementals in the deck.
2 Radiants and a Velen, but I believe too many minions remaining to guarantee that combination. I think he still has 8 total minions remaining in his deck, so he could whiff on either a Velen or one of those Radiant Elementals when he pulls it.
And the Spellstone juiced up to full now.
It's looking like a Zarek's into if I don't kill you, rip the Spellstone kind of game.
Shadow Visions is just so good in the Cloning Priest. The fact that you have a legendary spell that you can effectively have 3 chances to grab is just insane to me. I remember players at the start of that, when Boomsday Project first came out, they were going, oh, it's a Cloning Gallery Priest. This is I don't know how, but this is the deck. And I was like, oh, shut up. You're dumb. What are these 1/1s going to do?
Well, it turns out they die, and that's good. That's a real good thing.
My next question was, well, how do you stay alive long enough? And then, you know, Mass Hysteria thanks to Rastakon's Rumble, and suddenly all those questions got answered, and it's just a real thing.
Yep.
I do like all your points, though. It's just one of those decks where
Ooh, clever stuff. 2 more minions going back into the deck now for Killinallday, which means his odds of hitting double Radiant Elemental, Velen, and Malygos, from Monsanto's perspective, have just gone down. That is a very heads-up play. Monsanto recognized that Killinallday has fired off a bunch of Shadow Visions. There's a good chance he picked up a Xerix off one of those turns. So he says, you know what? Have 2 more minions in your deck. You now have, I've lost count, 11 to 12 minions in your deck total, which means you have a pretty low percentage of pinning that out to begin with.
But I'm seeing the Malygos hit here too, and for Monsanto, I look at that Cabal Shadow Priest and I wonder, did that prompt Killinallday perhaps to just, I mean, he took, again, this turn pretty instantaneously with the Malygos. Was this in your head automatic as well?
Yes. Yeah, turn 9, if it doesn't feel like a good Xerix turn, just get the Mali out there to die.
You have no fear of it being stolen?
It's a good general rule. I don't think so. I think if it does get stolen, Killen has a Psychic Scream of its own to respond with, and it's not like you're ever going to play Mali and kill it yourself, right? You're always exposed to that risk happening.
So sooner the better.
So the sooner the better, yeah.
Okay.
Just reduce the chances of them actually having the combination to draw. Plus, as you mentioned, one Cabal already used.
Wow.
So Killinallday has some of the time lethal at any given point now.
Ooh, Velen.
Point in gallery. Ooh,
So that ticks down that lethal.
it does.
Maxim now is 27, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
The Lyra can produce. You could Shadow Visions another Holy Smite and maybe set up a, you know, at a future turn.
Yeah, it's true actually. If he gets Mali, Radiant Lyra, then maximum damage is infinity technically.
Yeah. But with the Mind Blast, Holy Smite, and then Shadow Visions into second Holy Smite.
Ooh, yes indeed.
That's 34.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a chance that Killing could go for lethal here, but again, we're looking at additional minion in the deck, thanks to the Cabal Shadow Priest, and the Lyra that he had drawn and played is back in the deck.
Going for it.
It's not happening this turn.
Just the one Radiant Elemental. And there you see, far right, Cabal Shadow Priest coming out. If that hadn't have been screamed into the deck, that could have been the Radiant Elemental that Killinallday would have needed for potential lethal.
Killen says, I want to have a second go at this. And he's going to have a coin in hand on the follow-up.
Yep, Gilded Gargoyle makes magic happen. This can draw damage as well off the Lich King, but does not. Gets Army of the Dead instead, but that's never a particularly dead card in the matchup.
I'm looking at a problem now for Monsanto, and that is that Wild Pyromancers have been used. The Cabal Shadow Priest targets do not feel fantastic.
Yeah, just a quick check for those of you at home looking to play competitive Hearthstone. When there's a 1/1 spell damage minion on the board, you should check if you have lethal, like Cabal Shadow Priesting your opponent's spell damage minion.
Also cool trick, when your cards are active in hand with special effects, like Twilight Acolyte, it'll glow yellow.
If you're colorblind, unlucky.
Yeah. Sorry, Brian Killer.
Mind Blast number 2, but not enough mana. This was a danger for Killinallday. If double Mind Blast plus Cabal was in hand there for Monsanto, he would have had the 20.
So Monsanto is going to be very interested in actually just leaving this Malygos alive. Is that correct?
It's very much looking that way.
And so for Killen now, he needs board space in order to produce extra damage here, and he can't make that. He can't grow his minions. He can't really do anything. Did Monsanto just lock the game?
I'm trying to think if there is a way that you can kill one of your own minions and replace it with the Velen, but I just...
He doesn't have a way in hand to do that.
I don't think there is.
Whoa, Monsanto spotted a brilliant move here. Nothing. So now, fine, have your 7/1/1s.
Oh, not nothing, Admirable. It was bootleg Ice Block and pass. That was the turn.
Damn, 6 mana, 5 damage your face.
Yep. It's 27. That's all he's got.
Was he trying to bluff?
It worked. Monsanto believed it for a second.
But he didn't. But he didn't concede.
He didn't concede. But I think
Killen was actually going for the hope you concede spot.
Why not?
If he had done that immediately, does it have more payoff?
Probably, yes. I think just for a split second,
wow,
Monsanto believed.
Monsanto's going to win this game. That's insane.
There it is. And we set it up we hoped we would see day 2 improve on the standards of day 1. You don't need a better demonstration than the very lethal that was missed on day 1, being snatched out of the jaws of defeat from Monsanto with a great setup play beforehand as well to essentially do nothing, say go, snap off the Holy Fire, left that map.
That's the chance you got. That's the chance you got.
Yeah, the question is, what other out did he have? And the answer was none. And he found the out and he played to it, and it's paid off, and the series is now tied.
Going with the dual OTK Paladin from Monsanto's side. It features both the Holy Wrath kill potential as well as the Uther and the Four Horsemen. And Christology, I feel like, is the card that makes this deck function. It is so good at thinning out your deck and just powering through draw spells.
Yeah, it's just so much cycle. I did not have much experience with this build of the deck coming into this week, and we were talking about the mirrors at one point, like just straight up Death Knight Four Horseman Paladin versus this version, and it wasn't apparent to me how much quicker this version cycled through than the older version did, and I think that's a huge advantage for it, and just being able to do what it needs to do quicker.
And so is that the game plan for Killinallday as well? Just quickness, speed?
It's going to have to be, yeah, because he can't really get very far above 30. I do believe that he is playing Shadow Reaper Anduin. Yes, he is. That's not an automatic inclusion in Cloning Gallery Priest, although I do personally like it. So he does have a bit of opportunity to get out of range of the Holy Wrath Shavala combination. But if Monsanto can get cooking quickly with the Four Horsemen on board, again, actually, Shadow Reaper Anduin becomes a very important card just to even be able to ping the 2/2s off the board every turn, because otherwise this deck can actually struggle to deal with them sometimes. You don't want to be Psychic Screaming them into your opponent's deck when it's near empty. That doesn't help you very much.
Oh, no.
I wonder.
That is a cool tool versus the potential Holy Wrath combo, though.
It is,
Yeah.
indeed, yes.
They finally done it. They found a way to use Prismatic Lens. Bootleg Arcane Intellect. Every other class just uses bootleg mage cards, and it works out.
Yep. Mage cards are pretty cool.
I'm so happy that you came up with the term bootleg ice block, because I'm just going to try to find a way that everything is just a bootleg card now. How interested is Monsanto in controlling hand size here too? I mean, is he going to be burning Shrink Razor qualities anytime just to account for mana expenditure?
Yeah, I was just looking at it and trying to, figure out what his hand looks like over the next couple of turns. His double Novice turn is fine here because he just has the second Righteous to come down. But yeah, after that, his hand is full of a lot of very important cards. So he's going to have to get rid of a few if he's going to want to keep cycling. And it might be those Consecrations, those Shrink Rays. But again, if you start ditching your board clears, then can Killinallday react to that and just go for a big board of his own with a Spellstone route instead of a Burst route? It's a little slower for him to operate on, and at that point, the Paladin OTK might win the race, but it's definitely something he can threaten with.
My head goes then to that next question, playing all these minions and, order of operations for them dying and not dying. How worried are you about your minions getting Psychic Screen back into the deck as Monsanto, and as a result, you then attempt to axe off all these little 1/1s that are on board? How important is that?
Probably very. I will confess I've not played this matchup from the Paladin side very often, but I know playing the Priest that when I can just refill my opponent's deck with a bunch of garbage, it stops them from drawing their Uther more often, and that was even before playing against the Holy Wrath version, where an empty deck is borderline essential to one of your win conditions of the deck.
I wonder.
I think that's where Monsanto is right now. He's just trying to figure out how many of these minions he wants to live and how many of these cards he can get out of his hand. Those two things are kind of in direct opposition to each other, because if you start spending these cards, it kills this minion without you losing your minions. Oh, he's found it.
Bootleg Frostbolt.
Yep. There it is. Super inefficient. This looks like a nonsense kind of play, but he's actually cleared 2 of his own minions off the board, spent a Hammer of Wrath and a Pyro from his hand at the cost of just drawing 1 card, achieved basically everything he needed to do. Got some garbage off the board so it couldn't be Psychic Screamed, found himself a space in his hand where he could draw a card and keep cycling.
Now that same onus is on Killen. 10 cards in hand.
Yeah, a little bit easier for Killen to spend cards, though. He can just play minions, have them die.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I feel like, though, it is important to be able to Psychic Scream stuff back in your opponent's deck. You know, I'm actually looking at, like, healing my opponent's Wild Pyromancer using Spirit Lash to try to force them to use spells again. Like, this is... I'm not an expert when it comes to Cloning Priest. This is just really not my kind of gig. I mean, anyone who plays Even Warlock, not typically a Cloning Priest kind of guy. From the onset, it's feeling to me like Monsanto does have a pretty favorable situation here, though. You know, given that Killinallday has Malygos in hand, I now look at timeouts here, and I wonder if Monsanto is more interested in holding them in potential disaster situations, or if he's more interested in using them heading into cloning gallery turns.
Yeah, I think we saw in the previous game that Monsanto had a very nice feel of the rhythm as to when the cloning gallery was going to come. Yes, it was turn 9. You might think that's self-evident, you know, turn 9 play against cloning gallery, but I think it was specifically because Killinallday had done so much fishing with the Shadow Visions that Monsanto felt so confident that the cloning gallery was coming. But if he can, you know, pick that kind of thing up again, then yes, nice succinct usage of those timeouts can really put a mess on Killinallday's strategy.
Killinallday says he'd rather burn the next card in his deck than put Ziliox on board because he wants the extra slot for cloning gallery next turn. That to me is a major tell on Monsanto's side. Because in this iteration right here, Killen, 2 of the minions are gone from deck. So how many minions are left after that?
It's guaranteed. He has 7 minions left.
Because the Witchwood Grizzly's gone.
Yeah, he's so 10. I think his deck starts with 10 minions. He's drawn 3, so there are 7 remaining in his deck. 2 Radiant Elementals, 1 Velen, triple Mind Blast for free.
So he needs to not burn a Radiant. He needs to not burn a Velen.
Yes.
And he needs to have Monsanto not use timeout this turn.
Correct. And then he wins. And if you're Monsanto here, I honestly, like, you might feel like you're going to die, but if you use timeout here, you also have to continue to use timeout for the rest of the game. Oh, the Radiant gets burned. And actually, no, with Monsanto having Uther in hand, this is a good timeout for him. I was about to say that, like, you know, using timeout here could be a bit pointless because then you just die the next turn or the next turn. But with Uther in hand, he can get himself up to 35, which does play around various ranges that are necessary.
Oh, this is a weird game. I'm starting to see it piece together. Like, as it's starting to happen, I'm like,
it's so fun.
It's just weird.
Yeah, it is a really weird deck.
I mean, I've told my favorite 2 things are things that kill things and stay in play.
Yeah.
AKA Old Fiery War Axe, or things that draw a ton of cards. We got the card draw part down. I'm enjoying that. It's the serious lack of combat. That's my point.
Yeah. So now, Killinallday can still make some magic happen here. He still has his 2 Gilded Gargoyles remaining, so he can pick up coins, which will help to offset the threat of that, or offset the loss of that 1 Radiant Elemental, which means his Mind Blast won't be free anymore. He will have to spend 1 mana on each of them.
Why did Monsanto swing here?
Good question. I'm struggling to give you an answer for it, to be perfectly honest.
That is interesting to me because I feel like the weapon is, you know, potentially vital. Maybe it's because he knows there's True Silver still in the deck for him. So he's like, yeah, I could just put enough damage on it. Maybe I could just, you know, stick something that threatens. Like,
right.
If Killen ever is in a situation where minions can threaten lethal, that is a very awkward turn to be in at this stage.
Monsanto considering letting rip with the equality. 3 Mind Blasts in hand. is 30, whether you do it with a Malagos or a Velen, but 30 now not enough because of that 5 armor, which, again, as I mentioned before, is what made that timeout so perfectly timed from Monsanto.
So I guess one of the questions is, do you want to use Equality? Do you want to use Wild Pyromancer? You definitely want to brew back these. This is right now looking like the win condition for him. Yeah. And so for mana efficiency's sake, the Consecration seems to be the best bet.
Yeah, it's actually really close because he only has 7 cards remaining. So what Monsanto can do right now is just kind of progress towards both win conditions. And whichever one comes first, you know, because he has the Shivala and the Holy Wrath in his hands. When he draws the Baleful Banker, he's in business there as well. In the meantime, he can just start hitting some 2/2s and see if that lines up first.
Yep. And I think Killen is starting to get into an awkward spot. That Radiant Burn was something else.
This is going to bring back his Mali plus a Witchwood Grizzly. He's going to ask for that to be killed yet again, and then on the following turn, he can Xerix to try and find the Prophet Velen to go alongside that, if it works out. 2 Mind Blasts alongside the coin will be castable, with his 1 remaining Radiant Elemental. That's up to 40, where I come from.
We'll time out a second here. I mean, we just drew that card.
We did.
Monsanto doesn't really have another way to take care of this.
Yeah. He can do some Shivala magic. That'll get the job done. No? Actually, it won't.
Frozen
I take it back.
calls.
I mean, it would require you to use one of your bounces.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I guess this is where that 5 swing came in. You want Killen to, you know, just be low enough that this could matter. You know, Monsanto, he's got, I think that's the final piece of card draw left in the deck for him.
Drink with me, friend.
Indeed, it looks like it.
Yep, there goes the timeout.
I think Killen might have the edge here. Monsanto, you know, pretty desperately needs to find, I think, that second equality. So I look back to that Shrink Ray.
I wonder.
Did he throw one away?
He threw one away earlier.
Ooh, yeah, okay. It's interesting. So I'm also starting to make sense of what that face attack was about several turns ago when he swung the first charge. I think it becomes clear as the game progresses, because Killinallday had that big taunt minion in his revive pool, Monsanto just wanted to put him on 25 while he could.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking the second swing might have been in order in hindsight, because, you know, Monsanto doesn't have to empty his deck in order to win. If you're going to die the next turn no matter what, and you have Baleful Banker, and you have Shivala, and you have Holy Wrath, you can just roll the dice.
Yeah.
And that's going to succeed some percentage of the time, but Killen needs to be at 25 or less.
Right.
And right now, to me, it's looking like Monsanto is getting back into a corner where he's going to need to rip that. I don't know if he's necessarily going to even have the time to rip that. And now it doesn't work because Killen's back at 30.
Yep. Ziliak's pushing him back over the top. He is...
Of course the banker shows up. Of course the banker shows up.
Killen is, however, very reticent to be playing out minions onto the board, or has been on the previous turns, but having now drawn 1 Gilded Gargoyle, that's now 1 less minion that he can pull for the Xerix Cloning Gallery, because Killen's game right now is all trying to make sure that his Cloning Gallery hits Velen and his 1 remaining Radiant Elemental to supplement the Malagos for lethal. So after drawing the Gargoyle, he felt like he had 1 more space available on board where he could play the Ziliax and heal up.
And to me, I'm looking at this, there's no option for Monsanto. It is rip the Hammer Wrath and hope that you find a way to blow up this board.
Frostmourne calls.
No timeouts left. No shot at lethal.
The end draws near.
There it goes.
Oh! Huge pickup for Monsanto. He stays alive another turn.
Doesn't get
Ships the 5.
Yeah, doesn't get the opportunity to throw in another horseman here, but now he's very, very close to the Shivala Holy Wrath strategy instead, and Killinallday does not have a res in hand to put any taunts in the way of this. But now, hang on, Cloning Gallery pulls out Vel and Radiant, and then with coins, he has Mind Blast for still not enough, I don't think, right?
Well, you let him rip.
Mm-hmm.
You could still get
Holy Smites off the
Lyra.
Lyra.
He can smite his own gargoyle? Does he have any damage there? Topsy-turvy, it's nothing?
Still only 20 more currently.
So he needs to find 2 more smites from this Lyra. That's not it.
Nope.
So this one needs to produce a smite. It does not, but now faced with the option of, well, should I play around the Shivala out?
He
with
still
Spirit
doesn't,
Lash?
though. It only goes to 24.
Oh, that's right, because the weapon's still there.
Yep. That's it. He's out of juice.
But Monsanto does not have a delivered lethal yet.
How many minions remain in his last 2 cards?
Well, the Holy Wrath doesn't draw the top minion,
No,
it draws
I
the
know.
top card.
Yeah.
So there's a Zola still left for killing.
Mm-hmm. For Monsanto, you mean?
Frostmourne
I'm sorry, yes, for Monsanto.
Mm-hmm.
And a True Silver Champion. Those are the 2 cards remaining in deck for him.
Okay. So is it 33%
I think you just got to rip it. I mean, what else can you do? You have no spell to combine with Wild Pyromancer. Your opponent just sent you to 5 and they have 10 cards in hand. What choice you got? I guess you could attack the Velen and attack the Lich King. That seems scary.
The end draws near.
He's going for it, Sottle.
Hold on to your seats, ladies and gents.
If it fails, he's got backup.
He's trying to point the weapon of face. He
knows.
doesn't get it. Hits the True Silver. But he does clear the board as well by putting the Pyromancer in. And now Killinallday finds himself in the spot that Monsanto was in, where his opponent has expended a big win condition, but he himself does not have lethal to back it up.
There's another Shivala in deck. There's still the Zola. There's 2 horsemen in hand. Killen's got to, start clearing horsemen, and he's got to win the game before Monsanto recovers this.
Yep.
And those tools are not there right now.
Spellstone Spirit Lash? If you don't get the Malagos back, then you're not killing the Shivala that way?
I wonder.
Do
You want to Psychic Screen this turn? Yeah, just to try and reduce the chances that your opponent finds that card they need, but you don't know that that card isn't already in hand? Because right now, Killinallday's got to shut down the 4 Horsemen plan. That's what he knows his opponent has left.
How do you stop that?
Stop them drawing Zola.
I'm almost out of cards.
We did not stop them drawing Zola.
Wow. And so now a 50% chance to roll the right horseman for Monsanto. But he's certainly worried about a counter-lethal here. I mean, Velen, Lyra, Radiant.
Yep.
It's about as scary as it's going to get in terms of the random generation where you're going, oh, come on, not like this.
Azeroth will be purified.
Oh,
That's the wrong one.
That's White Mane. Killer knows as well. Gives the nod.
The frozen throne calls.
The end draws
That did not
near.
feel like that was a full turn to me.
Frostmourne calls.
What does Monsanto even have now? Like, Kangor really doesn't help him out too much. He can just take care of the Lyra on board, which means a lot of the random generation is shut down, and Killinallday has used the majority of his natural burn spells. It's just a 7/7 in play still.
There's a Divine Spirit in hand. There's another Spellstone. And I don't recognize the elixir by the picture of what it is.
No idea.
Divine Shield, it looked like. Thank you, spectator. Yeah, there it is.
2/2 Divine Shield.
So that's 9. I mean, Killen has at least 2 more turns. Monsanto cannot deliver a victory
Yes.
next turn. It has to be 2 more. And so Killen, I think, has ways to get around this, but you know, the Crystal Smith Kangor actually is providing a major benefit to Monsanto here, because the Shirvala in deck means that Monsanto just has like an almost pinpointed heal to full.
Oh, gets the
Ziliax.
Ziliax off the revive. That's huge. Allowing him to take care of that 1/2 without sacrificing the damage from his Velen.
The Shirvala is still a threat, though. The Rogue Horseman!
White Mane. White Mane ruins everything.
So Monsanto could go up to 18 here, but any way you slice this, there's either a Lyra or there's a Velen in play.
Yep.
We've entered some very dangerous territory for Monsanto now. He still needs 2 more turns. 3 points of fatigue is ticking no matter what.
Yep. Monsanto considering whether he just Zola's the Shirvala right now?
That is a lot of healing that can win you the game.
Yeah.
But Mass Hysteria is a threat on the other side. Ooh.
That was the best card in the deck that turn.
Inner Fire!
14 health on the Lyra right now. Do you
surrender just to try to draw another
I think
buff?
you have to, right? Yeah. You don't want to use this Inner Fire. This is your, by far, statistically, your most likely lethal out right now.
Well,
right?
is Devour Mind superior in that instance? Is another Priest card superior? Monsanto concedes the game. He can't deal with that Lyra over 2 turns, and that brings Killen up to a 2-1 lead. I don't think that these are the way these decks are meant to function in the grand scheme of things.
This is what I'm saying, Admirable. There is no way that it's supposed to function. You just have to make magic happen in whatever way you can. And look, done for the year if you want to look at it that way, but we've seen many, many people who already have their tickets booked to the World Championship already making back to repeat appearances, or at least coming very, very close in Europe last week. So now Killinallday trying to join those proceedings. But Monsanto, I think, is a player of the prodigious talent that perhaps has not had the rewards yet in Hearthstone that he's deserved.
Yeah, I definitely can echo that sentiment, where I feel like Monsanto has really made a name for himself over the last year or so in competition, but has floated under the radar for quite a while prior to that point. And it seems to me that Monsanto has just been consistent throughout. It's hard to say that he's grown as a player, because he's pretty much just been as good as this for a very long time in his career. So for this particular matchup, I definitely think that Monsanto has a bit more riding on the line than Killen does. As you said, the job is variably done for Killen at this point. He's going to Worlds.
To my side.
So in this matchup, Monsanto just essentially has a bunch of roadblocks that can get in Hunter's way. The Righteous Protectors fall into that category. Timeout, of course, can keep him alive, but then all the healing and the equality clears can line up pretty well, but Hunter definitely has game. You can see here the candle shot that Killinallday is cooking on here can really help him convert some of this damage through the Righteous Protector. Springport would have done the job just fine as well.
Something I'm looking at for Killen's list. It's not the typical hybrid hunter package we've been seeing. No secrets, no spellstone. He's packing the good old bunch of 1-drops with Timberwolves and tracking and Tundra Rhino to try to deliver that OTK. 2 Savannah Highmanes up top for his big beef. And as a result, no Zul'jin in the deck. This deck's relying purely on burst potential to get the job done.
Yeah. Zul'jin already can sometimes get a bit sketchy in the hybrid build because of, you know, no to my side in the deck, for example. So sometimes it's just casting a bunch of secrets, doesn't really do too much. In this deck, yeah, Zul'jin really going to get nothing done.
Killing now 2 flanking strikes in hand, Rexar in hand, Unleash in hand. This turn is one of 2 things. It's kill your 1/1 to make a 3/3, or hero power.
Yeah.
And that's not the type of turn that Hunter needs to be having.
No.
This wants to be Master's Call. This wants to be Crackling Razor Maul. This wants to be second Animal Companion. You can see one of the benefits that these combo and control style decks have against mid-range Hunter. Some of their cards get muted.
There is just nothing going on in Killinallday's hand right now. And it's one thing that does make me wonder about this new, you know, in vogue form of Hunter. It's just, there's a lot of just good on-curve cards that you're not playing to make Master's Call powerful. How Master's Short being the just big, shining light of a card that you're not playing in this deck to increase your Master's Call consistency. And so I think that's something that you can suffer from when you build kind of this weird mid-rangey deck, but it's also very combo-based with Timberwolves and Tundra Rhinos and everything else. Sometimes you just do get a handful of cards that don't really do anything.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, the handful of cards that don't really do anything, you know, which is sometimes involving like Timberwolf and Tundra Rhino and whatnot, you at least have a game plan there.
Yeah.
For Killing right now, it's like, please play something I can flanking strike. Please hit the hero power button. Do anything that I can do something to. Like, Killinallday might literally be ready to flanking strike next turn. He hasn't been doing it so far because it's the opportunity cost of the hero power.
Yeah. You think Monsanto might have a read on that kind of situation as well?
Well, those are the 2 things that come to mind, right? It's either going to be the slow and clunky stuff that Killen might be saving for that 1 turn potential.
Yeah.
Or it's exactly the kind of hand it is with flanking strike and unleash the hounds and whatnot. You know, I'd say the things you're very confident it's not, you know, Dire Frenzy at this point, a Master's Call, but you know, Hunter's Mark is going to jump to mind. A second Candle Shot might jump to mind. Savannah Highmane, certainly a thought for Monsanto right now, but next turn he's going to get a very clear image of what it's going to look like. And I think considering Savannah Highmane, you go, if they flanking strike instead of Highmane, I'm pretty darn happy with that.
Right. Finally, Killen does find a little bit of gas here as one of his first powerful turns since the opening.
It's not even really that powerful.
It's something, though. Monsanto is getting kind of low. It does look like the way the game is panning out that he's going to survive to at least like a timeout into Uther on 8 and 9.
Kangor Flashlight, just so much healing packed into 1 card, because it's not even just that. The True Silver's still online. You have to deal with the Kangor, or you want to deal with the Kangor very often afterwards. One thing that's missing here, though, is, you know, ability to actually just damage the entirety of a board. You know, if Killen has back-to-back turns where he's able to set up some significant presence,
right?
That's the one thing Monsanto actually doesn't check right now. Now, Killen obviously doesn't know that. He wants to pace those threats and make the boards that are just good enough to demand clear.
The light bends to my will.
It's just so much healing.
And the Consecration now coming off the draw as well answers that question that you were posing as to how Monsanto is going to deal with any big board states that get built up.
Just draw a card. Bit of information for Killen knows that there's a 2-cost minion somewhere there, thanks to Prismatic Lens. Ooh. Pretty key pickup. Killen's got a nice way to take off the Kangor without healing more. Immunity. Just keep pressing that button. It's like 8 damage Killen's gotten out of hero powers now?
At least, yeah. He's been hero powering a lot just because of how dead those 2 flanking strikes in hand were. He's given it the good old college try, is Killinallday, to try and build a board, but Monsanto's going to say bye-bye to this one, and then it's Uther territory straight afterwards.
Yep, this is looking bad for Killen. Uther is just such a heavy hitter versus, you know, a deal damage-oriented Hunter deck. Like, just there's not really many tricks going on with this one. It's you start dealing damage, that's about it. And with Killen having the kind of hand that he's got, is there ever an interest in getting Rexxar going because of that?
Yeah, I was wondering about Rexxar. I was also wondering maybe if you take your Tundra Rhino turn here and try and get a Razormaw Adapt on it that protects it from the 5 damage from Uther.
Thinking Stealth, Health, or Divine Shield?
Yep. +1/+1 even.
Ooh.
Because I think when your opponent makes a pretty lax equality like that, right, that you can make the read as Killinallday is like, okay, that was his last turn before Uther, so he was just getting it done, and then he's doing that because now he's going to enter the Uther stage of the game, and he's just fine.
And that's kind of where my head was at with Rexxar, where, you know, that read is becoming quite apparent. You know, for Monsanto to bluff in this situation, like that's like almost impossible.
Right.
So this hand is either stacked full of more removal, or it's an Uther turn.
And here we go. We talked about this yesterday. Killen attacking first, which means if Wind Fury comes, he still gets to attack. If Stealth comes, he gets to bank his damage and then hide his Tundra Rhino from the Uther turn.
I think this is quite smart for Killen here to say, you know what? I need this Rhino to live. I need it to be protected. That's what he goes for. And suddenly Uther looking like a much scarier of a card simply because of that. So now, you know, Monsanto, I feel like, is much less often on the deliver Horseman victory in this matchup. And so I look towards Shivala, and I look towards bouncing the Shivala multiple times in order to get that job done. And so to me, that would spell the Hammer of Wrath, the Shivala, bounce it back.
Looks very possible.
I wasn't ever quite sure I'd see 2 Hammer of Wrath in a deck successfully used.
It's time to test.
Sorry, the Holy Wrath OTK is not your problem with this deck. It's the double Hammer of Wrath.
I have done a number of... Whoa! This is actually quite brilliant from Monsanto as well. He just recognizes...
This is what you said, isn't it?
Well, I wasn't realizing he was actually just going to play the second Shivala.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was implied.
He's just going, so be it.
Yeah. Deal with this. There's only one way that Hunter deals with a board this big, and it's a Rexxar Builder Beast, and his opponent is not even in Rexxar form yet, so why not? Just while out.
Unleash the Hounds, Deathstalker, Rexxar. Does that clear this off? Indeed it does.
Is it really with the Timberwolf in play?
Yep.
Damn.
That's your reaction to it. Interesting timing here. So now, no more Shivalas. So the Holy Wrath OTK is now off the menu, and Monsanto is now relying on the Uther Horseman to get done, which what that means is the Baleful Banker is going to have to put a Horseman back in the deck at some point.
And be redrawn, correct, yep.
The light's justice has failed.
I'll definitely say that caught me by surprise. I did not expect Killinallday and Hunter to be able to find a solution to that problem, and I think Monsanto had exactly the same line of thinking. Just so happened that the 2 cards in hand, Unleash the Hounds and Rexxar, combined to be able to clear that board with the Timberwolf in play.
Ready for some big, dumb piles of stats.
Yes. I live for big, dumb piles of stats.
Finally entered territory that I thrive on. I feel like Monsanto's hand is just so clean for this position, though. He's got plenty of cards in deck. He's got a timeout in hand. He has Shrink Ray available.
No peace,
everything feels
no
there
rest.
for him to be able to get this done.
Yep.
Enough damage to take it down with the weapon.
Yeah, smart ordering as well. You saw he went for the Baleful Banker initially and then diverted to doing the Holy Wrath first because he didn't want to put another cheap minion into his deck first and then risk not being able to swing and kill the Hydra with the weapon afterwards. Caught himself at the last minute though.
Killen's now in that spot where you do want to check Horseman on board. It starts to roll consistently for your opponent. As those build up, they become more dangerous.
Yep.
I feel like Killen has got his work cut out for him if he's going to win this game. My head moves to Plated Beetle. Hope to find a Snow Flipper Penguin, play Savannah Highmane, and Plated Beetle on the same turn. I feel like this game is just going to get super difficult for Killen, though.
Yeah, seems that way.
Which tracks to follow? Senfu's fate.
He is finding some good options off the beast, though. Got Hydra off the first one, Scale Hide off the second, but he is going to need a long procession of those.
Stealth. Big bird.
Monsanto here could consider a tactical use of a timeout just to prevent that bird getting the business done. It looks like he's just going to deal with the problem.
Shrink it.
Yep.
1/1 bird, that's much less threatening.
The time has come. I return. Drink with me, friend.
One Horseman in deck. Second unique one in hand.
Crucially, Killinallday leaving that Horseman up for a turn. At least guaranteed that Monsanto was going to get a second unique one there on his turn. It's looking like a game 5, Nathan.
Yep, I don't really see Killen pushing through this. There's plenty of healing, there's plenty of answers, there's plenty of ways to stop damage. There is that chance, though. Can't just keep rolling the wrong Horseman. It's possible. It's very unlikely.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yep.
And I believe that was a Cave Hydra on the first option.
Sure was.
But again, I just don't think this damage potential is there. If it's going to be there, though, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, but now you see just silly things that he's having to do. Kill command the 1/1 just to make sure that there isn't a third unique Horseman being rolled on the following turn. Or not even make sure, just reduce the odds of. One Horseman in hand, a second unique one in deck for Monsanto.
I don't remember the one in deck.
It's, I don't remember the name, but it's the dark portrait facing right.
Okay.
Yeah. Whichever one that is. Who knows?
Number 3.
Death was merely
Is that one?
No.
That's third unique one then.
Yep.
Does Monsanto remember that?
I'm sure he has kept far better track and probably knows the names of the horsemen far better than I do.
Drink with me, friend.
So with 2 cards remaining in deck, he has Flash of Light to draw 1 remaining card on the following turn as well, if he even needs to.
The end draws
He has a
near.
third unique horseman in one of those 2 cards, which means this is locked up for guarantee because there is even a second timeout in hand for Monsanto to find that 1 turn if he needs it. Game over.
And then the big question. Even Warlock.
Oh, we're back to the well again, Admirable.
Yeah. I believe that is a proper concession from Killen. Oh, board space.
It's a great point.
The Wild Pyromancer solves that, but
Yes.
Killen is spotting some.
It's a good catch.
It's that tricky combo play that's deep down inside Killen. It drove him to play Quest Rogue for as long as he did.
For far too long. But yeah, Pyro plus Spell will create 4 spaces on the board instead of the current 3. Killinallday gets the nod. And he knows there's 2 Pyromancers remaining. It was hope against hope, but it was everything that he could have done.
The time has come.
Oh, hey, that's the one he needs as well. He's just rolled the 4 of them in a row. Not that the 4th one matters. It's just cute that he rolls it.
He didn't have the board space to do it, but it is funny that, like, I was like, wait, if he led that this time, I'm like, oh, no, it didn't work. But that is quite entertaining to me.
Yep.
You know, the first time I played with the card, I thought that's just how it worked. I thought it just
sequence them. Yeah.
Oh, it's not the 4th Enigma. It's 2 Thoris right there.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. Never mind.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Killen knows his fate. Maybe he's got a restore health quest or something.
Maybe. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4 for Monsanto, squaring it up 2-2, and we are going to go down to that final game. The big question mark, as Admirable keeps putting it, it's going to be this mid-range hunter from Killinallday against the even lock. The lowest performing lineups in the tournament are currently those that feature even lock.
That's right, and I feel like the matchup is a tad worse for Monsanto than it might.
Jeez. When you put it like that, it suddenly seems very dramatic.
And that...
Oh, boy!
Is,
Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, sorry. I just looked away from Admirable and towards the board and saw what he was freaking out about, and oh, geez.
These are some good openers on both sides. Now, I'm not going to talk about how much I dislike Even Warlock, even though I kind of just did.
The best option select.
But there's one card that can completely change everything. And Mountain Giant's part of it, but Sun Fury Protector is really the one that I have my eye on. However, Killinallday's deck operates fantastically in a lot of measures against that, which, you know, the first one obviously is Hunter's Mark. The second one, though, is that Crackling Razormaw in hand. That is a major threat to the defensive measures from Monsanto.
Yep.
But both hands right now have key tools that they can use to win this series. And I am actually kind of shocked that Monsanto throws away Sun Fury Protector here.
What even is it you think he's looking for, throwing that away?
Hellfire Defile, try to pick apart the early boards. Now, that being said, I think Monsanto is a brilliant Even Warlock player, and I've taken a lot of my practice with him on this deck to heart in certain situations. There's times he's opened my eyes to just superior lines of play versus certain styles of decks. He does play it quite differently from most of the players I've seen, but he has also played it more successfully than most of the players I've seen as well.
So bear with me for a second here, Admirable. How insane is coining a 2 here?
I think if you're going to keep that Mountain Giant, coining it's a little bit worse. But I think if you're going to throw away that Sun Fury Protector, there's a lot of merit to coining it out.
So, I mean, I definitely agree with that, but obviously, when you keep the Mountain Giant, you don't know that you're mulliganing into double 2-drop, right? Because that's what happened. He double 2-drop came off the mulligan, so I think there's still time for plans to adapt at that point. It was kind of a crazy idea that I just wanted to throw out, but I think it's something that was at least worth considering.
I think with the Hellfire in hand, it's a little bit worse of an option. Killen gonna go up. It was thinking about the +1/+1. Hellfire on the mind.
I think he knows he's playing an Animal Companion next turn, though, which puts that 4 health minion on the board 66% of the time. Times it doesn't. Adds just a ton of damage.
Monsanto gonna opt to threaten a Defile next turn. Now that's an interesting draw.
Is it good enough to get you off Animal Companion?
I'd be still quite surprised if it was.
It's really good in a lot of outcomes. You can just trade the 2/3 straight up and then look for, you know, Divine Shield plus health, +1/+1 on the 4/3.
The big tricky spot here for Killen is to visualize how the AoE is going to line up. You know, how does Hellfire look, how does Defile look, and then how you trade as a result of that. Right now, if Killen doesn't kill this Plated Beetle off, Hellfire is clearing the whole board.
Yep.
So his main priority is to protect this Misha from that, and then leverage what's already there to start ending the game. And this is really where Mountain Giant becomes a problem when you don't keep Sun Fury Protector. It does not give you the liberty to roll into a tap-tap turn 3 Giant and then make up that life differential by letting the Giant do all that legwork. One of the reasons I think that line works is because players tend to be apprehensive if you tap twice in a row to load up a full board because of the fear of a Coin Hellfire, because of the fear of a Defile somewhere down the road. And that, to me, is one of the big reasons why it's so important. It's not because the Mountain Giant's a threat. It's because the Mountain Giant offers health potential and damage potential. It acts like... It's like a bootleg Amethyst Spellstone. There we go. It bootlegs its own card.
Well done. Polite round of applause. Yeah.
It took me too long to arrive at it. But once I got there, I was like, yes! Nailed it! And now these Giants are stranded. That Mountain Giant keep now is abysmal from Monsanto's side. If you're going to keep that Mountain Giant, that Sun Fury Protector needs to be in hand.
Which gives me the question about coin 2 into 2 as well, because he could have had an Acidic Swampoos on the board contesting a 1-3, so then that 4-3 that the 1-3 turned into wouldn't have been an issue. If you're not going down the Mountain Giant line, can you play for tempo a little bit more aggressively than Monsanto did?
And now Killen's got the option of second Animal Companion or the Crackling Razor Maw and the Hero Power. And when this route's been taken from Monsanto, you know, I said the Savannah Highmane prior to the match, you know, before we went to our break, that it's not really a card you want to draw, but suddenly that card's looking a lot better given the way that the panouts are going. I'd say one of the big worries for Killen right now is how the damage is going to end up looking in the face of a Hooked Reaver. And so because of that, I actually think that the Animal Companion makes a lot of sense, so that Monsanto is in a weird timing spot when it comes to Hooked Reaver.
Does Monsanto just have to Defile here just to be able to Hellfire on the following turn? Is there any other outs?
You know, as much as I hate to say it, I think the Mulligan of the Sun Fury is a blunder from Monsanto's side. That's me personally. I'm open for debate. There's not a card in the deck right now, on a life tap anyway, that'll get him out of the situation.
No.
If you're going to set up for Defile next turn, I'm sorry, for the Hellfire next turn, you know, look how much damage you're taking in the meantime.
He's going to play out the Ooze, trying to do a similar job at least, but Crackling Razormaw plays can make a mess of this, and now Scavenging Hyena coming out as well. +1/+1, Poisonous, +3 attack, all of which will create very obnoxious boards that just Hellfire is not going to be able to interact with if he buffs it on the 1-3.
I'm curious if there's a line with, you know, just an Unleash the Hounds and Scavenging Hyena here. You know, I'm seeing being able to buff up the Hyena twice and then leave yourself with a 4/4 or 6/4.
Yeah, you might be right.
With a Razor Maw in hand, with a Savannah Highmane in hand.
You might be right. That's probably better. He hasn't seen any Spellstone buff effects go off yet either, right? Has Killinallday?
Nope. And I think because of that, he's going to be buffing up the Misha, and this means face.
Quickly.
The big question mark, that Scavenging Hyena. The Hero Power, the Unleash. Just pushing Monsanto in a quarter. This is demanding of Hellfire in this situation. You know, there's no cards in Monsanto's deck that interact with Defile in this spot.
Yep.
And I think this is just gonna. I think this is checkmate.
I wonder if...
I'm seeing some ways that Monsanto gets out of this, but we're talking nightmare draws from Killen's side, and pick which card you need from Monsanto's side for a number of turns.
He just doesn't. He doesn't even have a solution to this board based on what we're looking at. There are numerous hurdles that he needs to overcome after that.
Yeah.
But this is step one, and it's just not even there for Monsanto. Hellfire, put yourself to 8, leave your opponent with a 4-1. That's not a play.
I mean, like I said, it's going to require a number of bricks from Killen's side, and choose your card that Monsanto needs to draw from the other side. It quite literally needs to be those two things. So like the Savannah High Main here, I think is actually the one trap for Killinallday that could get Monsanto back into this. It opens up the Spellstone Defile turn.
Spellstone Defile, clear board, yeah.
Oh no. Not this road. Not this road. Monsanto, you see him shift in his chair too, like, wow, it actually happened. This is the one universe that Monsanto can win.
And that very much was a play for those keeping count at home.
Well, we're going to need some Shroom Brewers.
Well, load them up. Get that counter shot through, get that hero power through.
Killen, I believe, as I was talking with TJ this morning, looked to be at the top of the tiebreaker standings as well, where the 4-2 were concerned. And that's not a Shroom Brewer.
The
Monsanto.
Even then, we'll bring him back up to 8.
Just going to check to make sure Gul'dan's not 6 mana real quick.
So wait, if I play Mojo Master Zihi, then that makes my Gul'dan 5 mana, right? That's how that card works? No. Okay, never mind. But yeah, even the life tap now into the Shroom Brewer, that will leave him on the sum total of 8 at the end of the turn, and then still just the Candle Shot plus the hero power plus the kill command for 5 is going to get the job done. I believe that is a lockout, and I believe Killen is going to be the one going to 5 and 2. Killinallday, who, once again, for the record, was not TJ's prediction. No matter how much he tries to tell you otherwise.
Hey, I saw the envelope. Monsanto just going to throw out the Mountain Giant. Killinallday, the fist pump.
Yep.
Got it locked up and is moving up to 5 and 2. Monsanto picking up his 3rd match loss. It was a tough match between these two and a very strong demonstration of how to play some of the combo decks that are out there. This match had a ton going on in it, and this was a blast to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's the point.
Pros.
Yeah, he is. I feel like he's in that league of players who deserve more recognition, but have, for the most part, been in the background of the professional players, like Cole Mari having the same lineup as Viper last week. They are just left, don't get as much recognition as I believe they deserve, with Galen having a lot of deep understanding of a lot of these very difficult decks, but as we see here, it's a little bit more of a standard matchup, nothing too fancy going on here with the good old-fashioned Hunter v Hunter.
Yeah, it is slightly different though, and I think some people will lean more towards the Frozen, or it's not Frozen's build, but the deck Frozen's playing, where it's no secrets, it's not hybrid, it's just mid-range Hunter, tops out with Rexar with a Rhino, but then has cards like Life Drinker in, and the Timberwolves that we got to see used to fantastic effect yesterday, whereas Galen is playing this hybrid list, and I think even after the success on ladder and in tournaments this list has had, people still query it, because it kind of is just a 50-50 split.
Oh, well, the secret
hybrid
version.
list, yeah, secret. Yeah.
I agree. I am still not convinced one way or the other in terms of which is better. However, in the fact when they match up against each other, I definitely prefer the secret version. I love having Spellstone in this matchup. There's very few answers from where the Hunter play, from where the non-secret versions stand. And it was looking like Alan might just be running away with a very aggressive victory here, but Frozen is doing a remarkably good job of stabilizing, and he has got some major follow-up.
Yeah. Timberwolf, just work. That little doggo just gets the job done. But like you said, the follow-up's fantastic. Frozen can choose to either go for Rexar or go for a slightly different play with maybe Hyena along with a Razor Maw. But I do feel like, especially on this, against this board, Rexar, of course, getting the job done. I was talking more before Galen very quickly took his turn.
Yeah, of course.
Just gotta put it out there. Okay, even matchup. And now we play Beast Simulator.
I really like it when it gets to this point. Like the games where it's over super quickly, one side or the other can obviously be explosive and fun to watch, but there's not quite so much subtlety to the matchup. Whereas when both sides are building zombies, they have to decide, do I tempo out my cards or do I build a beast every single turn? Do I try and go for lifesteal or charge or stealth? There's a lot of different aspects that you have to take into account.
Double deadly shot will deny this, but it will do very little else. And we can see, of course, that flanking strike is actually way better with that draw. But we can see that the Dire Frenzy would have been insane if, to be honest, either one of those minions survived. The Rhino more than the Razor more, I think, slightly. But still, Dire Frenzy on any of those two maybe would have broke the game right there.
As you see Frozen here, I was saying you have to make the decision between hero powering and tempoing out minions. Frozen is all on this tempo plan. He is turboing out his hand, refilling it up again with the Hunter's Call. And it's just doing a pretty good job. Locking down the board is by far more important.
Well, because Hunter has access to the card draw due to Master's Call, you can spend your mana much more efficiently on actual stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to already now, look at Galen's turn. Hero power for Zombies. Okay, he got one he could play, great. But it also used up a good chunk of his mana. And Frozen can just utilize more and more mana every turn. And the Dire Frenzy is just an investment in the future for Frozen. And again, 1 mana 4/4s that rush. I'll get the job done.
I think this is looking pretty good, actually, though, for Galen for the moment. It's okay when Frozen.
Is it?
When Frozen rolls the Huffer as well, that definitely helps to make the situation
It's all part of the plan, Dan.
a little bit more palatable. But Galen's Zombies there was perfect to fill out the mana curve. He's curving into Zul'jin. I think based on, I don't think we saw the first couple of turns, but he hasn't played much that's too impactful from Zul'jin, though. Like no spell stones.
Deadly Shot flanking strikes are the big tempo swings.
Yeah.
Mainly because Deadly Shot can't miss, right? You can't hit your own minions, which is very good when you're having a Rexar mirror.
It becomes less good, though, when you factor in all these weeny little minions that Frozen has knocking about on his board. Galen's going to want something more like another Rexar to be able to deal with all of these, or a Bloatbat. Could it be getting to that point where after this huge swing turn from Frozen, Galen is falling that far behind?
Maybe. And Sol was saying yesterday, he just picks Bloatbat.
Yeah.
Whether you're ahead or behind, because that you don't get those picks often. It is pretty much that one minion that exists that has that effect.
Yeah, this is not it. This is not what he's looking for.
Great words, Derek. Yeah. This is not it.
That ain't it, Galen.
We'll remind everyone at home, we've not really touched on this, but both these players are 4 and 2. The winner goes to 5 and 2, so a chance at top cut. The loser goes to 4 and 3, which is out. So everything to play for both of these players right now. And this is just an unfun turn. You just leave Hyena on the board.
Yeah, the Deadly Shot for a 1 out of 3. Was that worth it? I mean, it gets it in the Zul'jin pool, which I guess is the main reason why he's going.
And you're playing Zul'jin next.
I suppose you have to go for it, but it just feels absolutely miserable for Galen. Look at this turn.
And this might be, Sol no doubt says it's a silly way to think about it, but the Deadly Shot could have just won him the game. That turn, if it hits the Hyena, then he Zul'jins. I don't really know what Frozen does.
But look at what Frozen's decision-making has led to.
Charge.
He played Rexar, I think, on curve on turn 6, and he didn't build a Zombeast until turn 10.
Right.
I think. His hand is empty, but look at his board position. Who cares what he's got in his hand?
And this is also why I think I'm the other way, and I favor Frozen's deck in this matchup, because the secrets do nothing if your opponent doesn't want them to, right? It's Freezing Trap. Okay, I just want to attack and have 5 minions. Then what do you do? Like, it can be very tricky, and
fair enough.
Frozen's Master's Call is just more powerful in general because of this Timberwolf, for example.
And here we go. The boy himself, Zul'jin, coming to try and fix this nightmare of a situation.
There are 2 Deadly Shots. And
that's a good one.
Yep, that'll do.
Okay, that makes way for the second one to be a 50-50 now. Okay, now we are talking.
Master's Call to refill the hand as well.
With 1 minion. There is literally 1 piece left in the deck, yeah.
I guess Galen must have a ton of secrets.
That's going to pull, what, 4? How many secrets is he playing? He might have cut one for the double
1 snake, 1
Deadly
pull.
Shot.
But he'll pull everything else. So 1, 2, 3.
3, 4. Playing the Snipe, yeah.
That is a stealth charging Rhino boy, though.
Oh, he's not even playing Explosive Trap. This is a really weird list from Galen. But
Good
maybe
call,
just
though.
a good metacal.
Yeah, what do you need Explosive Trap
Yeah,
for
yeah.
against these lineups? I love the no attack there. You've seen 2 deadly shots, then you've seen Zul'jin. There's not a lot left that even can even touch this Rhino. And then Builder Beast gets awfully fun when you have something that gives it charge on the board.
Yeah. I mean, you say all these things have been used, so that would make me more likely to uncloak it and attack him. But I guess kill
Oh, but there's
command's
like
still
kill
doing
commands,
it.
maybe another flanking strike,
Yeah, yeah.
for example. But and you're about to build a beast into this.
I mean, I guess this is just what you do with Stealth Rhinos. You just leave them there, and the effect is so absurd.
4 damage doesn't even remotely set up lethal,
Yeah.
and so on and so on. There are just too many benefits to leaving it stealth. But now all these secrets, Frozen's going to have to pick apart these in the correct way, but Spring Pour is a fantastic card to do that. You just throw it in and be like, oh, let's find out what happens.
And now, also, the downside of Zul'jin is very much coming into play, because while it saved him from a position where it looked like he could not come back from, he has a 2 damage hero power, which is so much infinitely worse than Builder Beast at this point. Frozen can just take this as slow as he wants into the late game and should be able to take it.
I'm a tiny bit surprised he went for the 3rd secret there. I didn't know if hero power on the mole and then push 3, because there's kill command in hand.
Yeah.
There's 2 damage hero power, and there's Dire Frenzy in hand. So that's just a lot of damage. You just race them then.
It's a fair point.
Or it's what I would do. You just play aggressive, because that's what your hand says. That's what your hero power does now. Deal with it.
I think this is just more likely to give him a wide board, though, with playing all the minion secrets and freezing your opponent. Like, you want to force them to get a bloat battle they lose.
Tough. It's hard with the Rhino down, though, because you wonder, is my board going to end up being that wide when every single thing that Frozen can play has charge? So it's a tough call.
Yeah,
it really
it's
is.
really tough.
The Zombie's dead. The Ravasar Runt in the middle will gain an adapt as well, so not only will it have charge, it could have Divine Shield, plus attack, poison, so on. It's already a 4-3, it's good shape.
Yeah, by not attacking the minion here, Frozen could have gone for kill command on the...
Oh, he doesn't care, right?
Oh, he's just ignoring
I
it.
think he's
and
just
going
killing
base. Yeah, I was going to say he could kill it off and not proc the secrets, but this way he still doesn't proc the secrets.
Yeah, and this is what I meant earlier, where like,
Yeah,
you
this is
just
good.
ignore the secrets, because so many of them are minion attack based. If you ever get ahead, you just do this, and then Galen's secrets do nothing.
But so then the benefit of not playing secrets was he'd got 3 more damage to face. What difference would that have made at this point? He's under threat, right?
Right. It's hard to play around lifesteal minions, though, right?
Yeah,
and
very much so.
again, I'll mention, I love the stealth Rhino still. Just leave it there.
Yeah.
Yes, it does 4 damage. It does more damage if it never dies.
It does indeed.
It's such 6 play. I think so many people would have just pushed the damage in, even that turn, if not the first.
As I think this is pretty much just lethal, right? With the damage that can be pushed through to face the
Use the link to
wandering
test.
monster gets procced.
Could be a taunt. Tar Creeper. Nope. So that's 4. That's 9.
Yeah.
That's 10.
Even these extra
And there's
minions
the wolf.
coming in make no difference.
Frozen just getting everything out of the way. And I believe, as you quite rightly said, we are not talking about fun stuff. We are talking about lethal. And he got it.
There it is.
Yeah, Frozen takes the win there, and that was I think a nice display of the clash